They tried to silence this story. WWE doesn't want you to see Roman Reigns breaking down backstage. They don't want you to know what really happened when the Bloodline found out about Jimmy Uso's sudden departure from the company. But we're going to show you everything, the raw emotion, the tears, the anger, and the heartbreaking reality that WWE is desperately trying to hide from the wrestling world. What you're about to witness will change how you view the Bloodline forever. Roman Reigns, the stoic tribal chief who never shows weakness, completely shattered when he learned the truth. And WWE's corporate machine. They're scrambling to control the narrative, but the truth always finds a way out. This isn't just another wrestling story, this is about family, loyalty, and a bond that transcends the business. Jimmy Uso didn't just leave WWE, he left behind brothers who are now questioning everything they thought they knew about this industry. Let me tell you what really happened behind the scenes, because the official WWE statement is complete garbage. Jimmy Uso's departure wasn't voluntary, and it wasn't amicable. According to multiple sources within the company, Jimmy was forced out due to backstage politics and creative differences that went far deeper than anyone realized. The breaking point came during a heated creative meeting where Jimmy reportedly stood up to WWE executives about the Bloodline's direction. He wasn't just fighting for his own character, he was fighting for the integrity of his family's legacy. But WWE's corporate structure doesn't tolerate wrestlers who think for themselves, especially when millions of dollars in storyline investments are on the line. What makes this even more infuriating is how WWE is spinning this narrative. They're painting Jimmy as someone who chose to pursue other opportunities, when the reality is that he was pushed out for refusing to compromise his principles. The man who helped build the Bloodline into the most dominant faction in modern WWE history was thrown away like yesterday's news. Roman Reigns found out about Jimmy's departure the same way we all did, through dirt sheet reports and social media rumors. Can you imagine? The tribal chief, supposedly the most powerful man in WWE, wasn't even given the courtesy of a heads-up about his own cousin's fate. That's the level of disrespect we're dealing with here. The footage I'm about to describe was leaked by a WWE employee who was disgusted by how the company handled this situation. Roman Reigns was in his private locker room when he received the news, and what happened next will haunt anyone who witnessed it. According to our source, Roman's first reaction was complete silence. He stared at his phone for what felt like an eternity, reading and rereading the news reports. Then, without warning, he exploded. Not the controlled, calculated anger we see from the tribal chief on television, this was raw, primal fury mixed with devastating heartbreak. Roman reportedly threw his phone against the wall, shattering it completely. He overturned a table, sending championship belts and personal items flying across the room. But then came the moment that broke everyone's heart. Roman collapsed into his chair and began sobbing uncontrollably. "He was my brother," Roman kept repeating, according to witnesses. "He was my fucking brother, and they took him away from me." The mighty tribal chief, reduced to tears over the loss of someone who meant more to him than any championship or accolade ever could. What makes this even more tragic is that Roman had been kept in the dark about the severity of Jimmy's situation. While WWE executives were making their calculated business decisions, Roman was planning future storylines that would never happen, matches that would never take place, and family moments that were stolen from him. Paul Heyman, who witnessed the entire breakdown, was reportedly so shaken that he had to leave the room. The wise man, who has seen everything in this business, couldn't handle watching his tribal chief's heart break in real time. But Roman wasn't the only one devastated by this news. The entire Bloodline structure began crumbling the moment Jimmy's departure became official. Jey Uso, Jimmy's twin brother and tag team partner, went into complete shock. These two men had been inseparable their entire lives, sharing the same womb, the same dreams, and the same journey to WWE Superstardom. Jey's reaction was different from Roman's explosive anger. He went completely silent, shutting down emotionally in a way that scared everyone around him. Solo Sikoa found Jey sitting alone in the parking lot at 2 a.m., staring at nothing, unable to process the reality that his twin brother was gone. "It's like losing half of yourself," Jay reportedly told Solo. "We've never been apart. Never. Not since we were born. How am I supposed to go on without him?" The Usos weren't just a tag team, they were a phenomenon. Their chemistry in the ring was supernatural because it was built on a lifetime of shared experiences, inside jokes, and an unbreakable bond that transcended wrestling. Now, Jay is expected to continue as if nothing happened, to pretend that losing his other half is just another storyline twist. Solo Sikoa, typically the strong silent type, was seen breaking down in the catering area. Witnesses report that he kept checking his phone, hoping for a text from Jimmy that would never come. The youngest member of the Bloodline suddenly found himself trying to hold together a family that was falling apart at the seams. Even Jacob Fatu, who had recently joined the group, was visibly shaken. He had looked up to Jimmy as a mentor, someone who could teach him the ins and outs of WWE's complex political landscape. Now his guide was gone, leaving him to navigate treacherous waters alone. What makes this entire situation absolutely disgusting is how WWE's corporate machine has handled the aftermath. Instead of showing respect for Jimmy's contributions or acknowledging the emotional impact on his family, they've been focused entirely on damage control and spin. Internal memos obtained by our sources reveal that WWE executives were more concerned about stock prices and upcoming television deals than the human cost of their decisions. One particularly damning email from a high-ranking executive read, "We need to move quickly to minimize any negative impact on the Bloodline brand. The show must go on. The show must go on." This wasn't just business. This was about destroying a family for the sake of corporate convenience. Jimmy Uso had given everything to WWE, sacrificing his body, his time with his real family, and years of his life to build storylines that made the company millions of dollars. WWE's public relations team immediately went into overdrive, crafting statements that painted Jimmy's departure as mutual and amicable. They leaked stories about creative differences and different visions for the future, all designed to make it seem like a normal business decision rather than the devastating betrayal it actually was. But the most insulting part was how quickly they moved to erase Jimmy from current storylines. Merchandise was pulled from stores, video packages were edited to minimize his presence, and future creative plans were rewritten as if he had never existed. This is a man who helped define an entire era of WWE programming, and they threw him away like he was nothing. Meanwhile, Roman Reigns was expected to show up to work the next day and perform as if his heart hadn't been ripped out. The tribal chief was supposed to maintain his character's strength and dominance while privately dealing with the loss of someone who meant everything to him. What WWE doesn't want you to know is that Jimmy Uso was more than just a performer, he was the heart and soul of the Bloodline behind the scenes. While Roman was the face of the group and Solo was the enforcer, Jimmy was the one who kept everyone together, who mediated conflicts, and who made sure the family bond remained strong despite the pressures of the business. Backstage sources reveal that Jimmy was constantly fighting for his family members, negotiating better spots for Jay, pushing for Solo's character development, and even advocating for Roman during difficult periods. He understood that the Bloodline's success depended on everyone being elevated, not just the top guy. Jimmy was also instrumental in training the younger talent who came through the system. He spent countless hours working with developmental wrestlers, teaching them not just wrestling moves but how to survive in WWE's cutthroat environment. Many current superstars owe their careers to Jimmy's mentorship and guidance. The ripple effects of his departure are already being felt throughout the entire roster. Wrestlers who looked up to Jimmy are questioning their own futures, wondering if their loyalty and dedication mean anything to a company that can discard legends without a second thought. Even more heartbreaking are the personal stories emerging from people who worked closely with Jimmy. Catering staff, security personnel, and backstage workers all speak of a man who treated everyone with respect and kindness, regardless of their position in the company hierarchy. One particularly touching story comes from a young production assistant who was having family problems. Jimmy not only listened to her concerns but helped her find resources and support. "He didn't have to care about me," she said, but he did. That's just who Jimmy was. To understand the true impact of Jimmy's departure, you have to understand that the Bloodline wasn't just a wrestling faction, it was a real family dealing with real emotions while performing in front of millions of people. The bond between Roman, Jimmy, Jay, and Solo wasn't manufactured for television, it was built on decades of shared experiences, cultural heritage, and genuine love. Roman and Jimmy grew up together in the same neighborhood, attended the same schools, and dreamed the same dreams. They supported each other through failed football careers, helped each other through personal struggles, and celebrated each other's successes. When WWE gave them the opportunity to work together professionally, it wasn't just a business arrangement, it was a chance to honor their family legacy. Jimmy was the one who helped Roman navigate the transition from being booed as a babyface to becoming the most compelling heel in the company. He provided emotional support during Roman's real-life health struggles and was instrumental in crafting the character development that made the tribal chief so successful. The Usos' tag team chemistry wasn't just athletic prowess, it was the result of two brothers who could communicate without words, who understood each other's movements instinctively, and who would literally die for each other. Breaking up that partnership wasn't just ending a wrestling act, it was severing a bond that had existed since birth. Now Roman has to continue the Bloodline story without one of its most essential components. He has to maintain the family narrative while knowing that his actual family has been torn apart by corporate greed and political maneuvering. The wrestling community's response to Jimmy's departure has been immediate and overwhelming. Current WWE superstars, despite the risk to their own careers, have been subtly showing support through social media posts and backstage conversations. Several major wrestling personalities have spoken out about the situation, with many calling it one of the most disgraceful examples of corporate callousness in recent memory. The fact that WWE would destroy a family dynamic for business reasons has sent shockwaves through an industry that already struggles with issues of loyalty and respect. Independent wrestling promotions have already begun reaching out to Jimmy, offering opportunities that would allow him to continue his career while being treated with the dignity he deserves. The wrestling world recognizes talent and character, and Jimmy Uso possesses both in abundance. Fan reactions have been even more intense, with social media campaigns demanding answers from WWE management. The hashtag Justice for Jimmy Uso has been trending worldwide, with fans sharing their favorite Jimmy Uso moments and expressing their disgust with how the situation has been handled. What's particularly powerful is seeing fans from different wrestling promotions coming together to support Jimmy. AEW fans, Impact Wrestling fans, and even fans of international promotions have all expressed their appreciation for what Jimmy brought to the wrestling world. The real tragedy in all of this is watching Roman Reigns try to continue performing while dealing with profound personal loss. The man who built his character around family loyalty and strength is now forced to portray those same values while his real family has been shattered. Sources close to Roman report that he's been having difficulty sleeping, eating, and maintaining his usual training regimen. The emotional stress of losing Jimmy while having to maintain his on-screen persona has taken a significant toll on his physical and mental health. Roman's wife and children have noticed the change in him, describing a man who comes home exhausted not from physical performance but from emotional exhaustion. He's been trying to shield his family from the business drama while processing his own grief and anger. The most heartbreaking aspect is that Roman feels partially responsible for what happened to Jimmy. As the acknowledged leader of the Bloodline, he believes he should have been able to protect his cousin from the political forces that ultimately led to his departure. WWE's decision to keep Roman in the dark about Jimmy's situation has created trust issues that may never be fully resolved. How can Roman continue to work for a company that would make such a significant decision without consulting him? How can he trust executives who prioritized business over family? Despite WWE's attempts to minimize Jimmy Uso's impact, his legacy in professional wrestling is undeniable and permanent. Jimmy, along with his twin brother Jay, revolutionized tag team wrestling in the modern era, bringing an energy and authenticity that elevated everyone around them. The Usos' contribution to WWE's success cannot be overstated. They were instrumental in some of the most memorable moments in recent wrestling history, from their early days as colorful babyfaces to their evolution into the most dominant heel tag team in the company. Jimmy's individual contributions often went unrecognized by casual fans, but those in the industry knew his true value. He was a master storyteller who could convey complex emotions through facial expressions and body language. His ability to make the audience care about his character's journey was unmatched. More importantly, Jimmy represented something pure in an industry often corrupted by politics and ego. He remained humble despite his success, loyal despite being given reasons to leave, and family-focused despite the pressures of fame. The wrestling techniques and psychology that Jimmy developed will continue to influence future generations of performers. His approach to character development, his understanding of crowd psychology, and his technical wrestling skills created a template that many will try to emulate. The question now becomes, how does the Bloodline continue without one of its most essential members? Roman Reigns faces the impossible task of maintaining the family narrative while dealing with the reality that his real family has been torn apart. WWE's creative team is reportedly scrambling to rewrite months of planned storylines, but no amount of creative writing can replace the genuine emotion and chemistry that Jimmy brought to the group. The Bloodline's future success will depend on whether they can find a way to honor Jimmy's legacy while moving forward. JUSO's future is particularly uncertain. How does half of the greatest tag team in modern WWE history continue as a singles competitor? How does he maintain the Bloodline's momentum while processing the loss of his twin brother and tag team partner? Solo Sikoa and Jacob Fatu will likely be asked to step up and fill the void left by Jimmy's departure, but they bring different qualities to the group. The dynamic that made the Bloodline so compelling was the genuine family bond between Roman, Jimmy, and Jay, something that cannot be artificially recreated. Roman himself has hinted through cryptic social media posts that he's considering his own future with the company. While he's under contract for several more years, the emotional toll of this situation may force him to reevaluate his priorities and career goals. What happened to Jimmy USO represents everything that's wrong with modern professional wrestling. A man who gave everything to his craft, who elevated everyone around him, and who embodied the values that WWE claims to represent was discarded like a broken toy when he no longer served corporate interests. The real victims in this situation are the fans who invested emotionally in the Bloodline story, only to have it destroyed by business decisions that prioritized short-term profits over long-term storytelling. We were robbed of years of potential matches, moments, and memories because executives in suits decided that Jimmy USO was expendable. Roman Reigns' emotional breakdown backstage wasn't just about losing a coworker, it was about losing a brother, a confidant, and a piece of his own identity. The man who built his entire character around family loyalty was forced to watch his real family be torn apart by the very company he helped make millions of dollars. Jimmy USO's legacy will live on in the hearts of fans who appreciated his contributions and in the techniques of wrestlers who learned from his example. But the wrestling world is a smaller, sadder place without him, and WWE's corporate callousness has left scars that may never fully heal. The next time you watch Roman Reigns perform, remember that behind the tribal chief character is a man dealing with real grief, real anger, and real betrayal. His strength in continuing to perform while processing this loss is a testament to his professionalism and his respect for the fans who support him. This story isn't over. The wrestling community will remember how Jimmy USO was treated, and there will be consequences for WWE's actions. In an industry built on loyalty and respect, WWE has shown that they value neither when it comes to their most dedicated performers. Jimmy USO deserved better. Roman Reigns deserves better. The wrestling fans deserve better. And until WWE acknowledges the human cost of their corporate decisions, stories like this will continue to destroy the very foundations of what makes professional wrestling special. The truth always comes out eventually, and today, the truth is that WWE destroyed a family for the sake of business. That's something that can never be forgiven or forgotten. If you thought tonight's story was wild, trust me, what happens next will blow your mind. So don't stop now. Click on the video right here on your screen to continue the chaos, the drama, and the inside scoop only we deliver. And if you haven't already, hit that subscribe button, give this video a like, and join the Wrestling News CC family, where the real stories of WWE come to life. See you in the next one.